Well, since I'm here and you're here, let's check out some discovery videos together. Let's go.
The world is a strange place that's rife with 100 questions for every one answer. No matter how hard we try, no matter how many experts we deploy, sometimes the fight to solve the mysteries of the world just sees us unearthing an infinite number of even more enigmas than we can handle. Even the smartest people in the world are going to struggle to comprehend this onslaught of confusion that is this video. These are 20 mysterious discoveries that science still can't explain. Number 20. Stonehenge.
Absolutely.
Now, you've probably already seen Stonehenge at some point somewhere, and it's a super famous Neolithic monument from about 5,000 years ago. This World Heritage Site is located in Wiltshire in the UK, and the monument itself is built from enormous standing stones that are arranged in a circle on Salisbury Plain. Each of these impressive standing stone structures is about 13 feet tall, 7 feet wide, and weigh a staggering 25 tons. Now, that is the outer ring, because then there's a smaller inner ring which is built from smaller stones. Inside of that, there are two larger vertical Larsen standing stones, which are joined by a lintel. The monument lines up with the rising sun on the summer solstice, and that is the shortest day of the year. From extensive examination and scientific research, it's been established, as well as these truly ancient things ever can be anyways, that the rocks themselves from which the monument was constructed would first be placed there around about 2400 to 2200 BC. The earth bank and ditch which formed the surrounding area were first constructed about 3100 BC, and the stones may have been on this site not long after that. How the rocks were brought there and then positioned, raised, and so on still remains a subject of fascination for archaeologists. Stonehenge is a place of great mystery and intrigue, although the exact purpose and meaning of this incredibly old place is not known for certain. It is believed that it was used as a burial ground from as early as 3000 BC, and
then I don't know if y'all noticed at the beginning, did y'all see what looked like either crows or buzzards or whatever flying around in the beginning? Go back and check.
Certainly been seen as a significant place by many societies since those rocks were first raised all those millennia ago. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now, or this centipede will crawl on your face when you're sleeping. Now it's time for the sweet topic. This image shows just one of many creepy discoveries in the Congo that terrified the world as of late. This rather odd display shows skulls painted green, used as some sort of decorative item, on what could only be described as a trough full of fruit. Or at least I hope those skulls are just decorations and not part of the food. This was discovered by some tourists, tucked away in a corner, totally abandoned, with no context or explanation. Some rudimentary research says that these are Congolese beliefs are rooted in one supreme god with a network of subordinate lesser gods. Perhaps this is the sort of offering to the aforementioned deities or some artwork that celebrates them, but that's a total guess. What we do know is that it's a bunch of skulls on top of a pile of fruit, and there's no way that it isn't a little bit chilling. Here's hoping for a rational answer. As always, you can let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below about what you just saw on the screen using the hashtag #SweetTopic. Number 19. Decay spheres in Costa Rica. Back in the 1930s and the 40s, a scientific study would be conducted in which stone spheres that were found in Costa Rica were examined. But what's so unusual about that? Well, apparently these rocks, which are all found all across the country, and there are hundreds of them, are also completely round. Measurements have determined that they are actually, in many instances, totally spherical, and they're considered to be close to being perfect spheres, and scientists believe that they are in fact handmade.
That's very, very odd to me, right? And the way where they are, how they're positioned, they're just sitting there, I don't know, 1,000 things go through my mind. Is an egg that turned to a fossil. You know what I mean? I think we just need to sacrifice one of them and crack one open. We just need to.
The studies conclude that these stone spheres were carved by the ancient people who were indigenous to a valley in Costa Rica. But just how they did this, and so very perfectly as well, is the thing that stumps scientists today. These spheres were predominantly carved from granodiorite, which is a very hard rock that shares many characteristics with granite. It's believed that the ancient people would choose rocks that were very round to begin with, and then, using tools that were essentially just smaller rocks of the same material, they carefully shaped them, perhaps also using heating and rapid cooling techniques. However, despite the scientists' ability to pin down a few possible techniques, the accuracy of the skill is still a tiny bit baffling. Number 18. The Naga Fireballs. This strange phenomenon happens every year along the banks of the Mekong River, close to the border between Laos and Thailand. These balls are apparently glowing orbs of fire that range in size from teeny little sparkles all the way up to as big as basketballs. Allegedly, these big flaming balls rise up from the surface of the water and head up into the night for several hundred feet before disappearing. Now, incidentally, this phenomenon lines up really neatly with the end of the Buddhist Lent season at the end of October, making them extra mystical indeed. These fireballs have been reported all along a stretch of 160 miles of the Mekong River, and they've been known by various names, which includes ghost lights and Bang Phai Phaya-nak. They've often been blamed on the giant serpent, or Naga, that is believed by locals to inhabit the river. Now, there are multiple rational explanations for these balls of fire. They range from tracer rounds being fired across the river to flare guns, and there's also a theory that they are caused by phosphine gas that's created in the marshlands of the area. This gas is extremely flammable, although it would not generally catch itself alight all spontaneously like. So what in the world is going on here, and do you have any splendid ideas? Go ahead and share them with the entire class in the comments section down below. Number 17. The Antikythera Mechanism. A trading ship sank off the coast of an island of Antikythera in the Mediterranean Sea during the first half of the 1st century BC. This wreck has proven to be the site of such enormous archaeological significance as it's revealed its secrets over the years. One such revelation was that of a mechanism that belies all previous understanding of how advanced the use of geared mechanisms actually was during this time. Until the discovery of the Antikythera mechanism, there had been no such discovery of any engineering that involved gears. In fact, it was not believed to have been in use until medieval cathedral clocks were built over 1,000 years later. The mechanical device is believed to have been used for calculating and displaying information about astronomical phenomenon. Back in ancient Greece, this was obviously cutting-edge technology and is actually surprisingly sophisticated. It's been scanned, and the resulting radiographic imagery shows that there are 30 gear wheels that form part of the internal mechanism of the machine. So, this may be difficult to explain in some respects, but only because historians had not yet discovered the true extent of the knowledge and skills of ancient people. It may just add as much mystery to the matter as it explains.
I mean, how much more stuff do y'all need to see? You can't tell me they weren't advanced. As much as I've seen that they've discovered from them, there's no way you can conclude that they weren't advanced, bro. They were so advanced.
Number 16. Earthquake lights. Now, while we're all most likely familiar with the general idea of what goes on during an earthquake, you know, all that shaking and such like, sometimes a lot of shaking until things fall down, we are most likely not so aware of a phenomenon that can accompany an earthquake, which is known as earthquake lights. Sometimes it's also referred to as sheet lightning, ball lightning, and streamers. Earthquake lights are basically exactly how they sound. Lights that occur during an earthquake event. Until relatively recently, this was something that had rarely been seen. But these days, there are so many cameras positioned pretty much everywhere all the time that we're capturing things like earthquake lights on film for the first time. Now, of course, that is one explanation for why they've not been seen so frequently, but another is naturally aliens. I mean, why wouldn't it be? Aliens love a good earthquake as much as anyone else, and it makes landing and getting on with all that sneaky probing so much easier while everyone's freaking out during the quake. Anyways, even though there is a growing body of evidence about these weird lights, scientists still haven't nailed down exactly why they happen. Theories can range, other than UFOs of course, include having something to do with the kind of rock that is present around the earthquake area. Different rocks emit different colored lights, and granite in particular has an especially intense reaction. But exactly how they make light? Well, that's still being examined. Number 15. Potomsky Crater, Russia. This has been called the most mysterious place in Russia, which is certainly saying something, given the colossal scale of that nation, and its aversion to transparency in, well, pretty much everything that matters ever. This is Potomsky Crater, a weird and unexplained crater in Siberia that has had people puzzling and scratching their heads for decades. Known locally as the Devil's Place, the crater has a bit of a reputation for being pretty spooky and even dangerous to humans. Some of the weird stuff that's been reported has included the fact that trees don't grow on the side of the structure, but nobody can really work out why that might be. The whole area used to read as a highly radioactive place, but now its readings are low. How this has shifted so dramatically
I hope they're sure that as soon as he said the whole place has a reading of radioactive activity, and then you see people just casually walking through there, and I'm like, they better be for sure that it's no more readings, bro. Jeez.
Is quite the mystery. It does beg the question, yes, I know you've all been thinking of it, could it be alien? Well, yes, it possibly could be. It is round after all, and you know how much aliens enjoy a circular object, so go on and have all the opinions that you can muster in the comments section down below. It's going to be super fun, I promise. Number 14. The Marfa Lights. Also known as the Marfa Mystery Lights, the Marfa Lights are a phenomenon that appears in the sky just to the east of the West Texas town of Marfa. These weird glowing orbs, it is always a glowing orb now isn't it, have been illuminating the dark and puzzling inhabitants of the place for the past couple hundred years. The spectacle has been witnessed by many and may glow in multiple colors from white to blue to yellow to red. These lights behave in many different ways as they've been seen hovering, splitting into two, floating up into the sky, and darting about all over the place and flickering. The lights have been seen in different sorts of weather, and they're not predictable at all. Although they only appear maybe a dozen nights out of the year, those appearances seem to be quite random, and nobody can explain what they are, or, to be honest, if they're really there at all. It is a proper puzzler. Number 13. Nazca Lines, Peru. Alright, something that could be aliens. I mean, no, sorry. Actually, it was just the ancient South Americans. Although the jury is still out on this one, because it is super strange, and it seems really difficult to have achieved all the way back 2,000 years ago. The Nazca Lines are a collection of absolutely enormous geoglyphs, meaning drawings on the earth, which are found all along the coastal plains of Peru and South America. These lines vary in style. Some of them are straight, some are geometric designs, and others are pictorial. The thing is, though, that they are colossal, the largest measuring up to 30 miles long. Many of the most famous ones depict animals and plants, but these are extraordinary etchings in the earth that were actually created by a process of excavation. As the ancient Nazca people removed the top layers of the desert floor, it revealed lighter colored sand beneath the rock, and that is how the images or lines would be made. It's a similar sort of process to some of the chalk hill figures that can be found in Britain. These were made by cutting away top layers of the earth and then backfilling the trenches with chalk in order to create the outline of various images on hillside. The Nazca Lines do still baffle scientists today and historians alike, since nobody can exactly put their finger on even why they were created and what the images might mean. But they are really awesome, just as artworks in their own right. And now we have drones, so we can get a really good look at them as well. Thank heavens for drone technology. Where would we all be without it? Number 12. Namibian Fairy Circles. This area is in the Namib Desert in southern Africa and is most famous for its unusual features, one of which that has had many people stumped is the phenomenon known as fairy circles. These are patches of earth in perfectly circular shapes, which are barren when grasses and other vegetation seem to grow all around the outside. They can range from about 10 feet in diameter to 65 feet and is, as to be expected, the dawn of Google Earth and the ubiquitous drone camera has led us to being able to see the true extent of these strange sights, and it's had people baffled. Could it actually be fairies? Perhaps it's aliens. Who could possibly say? The locals have a theory of their own, and they reckon that these are the footprints that have been left behind by the god. Oddly enough, these circles are evenly spaced out, adding more to the supernatural feel of the phenomenon. But
I know we think we know what it is, but humor me for a moment. What if it is places where aliens have landed frequently? What if that is the case? What if we're not really, maybe we need to take a step back and look at this again? You know, each time I see that, I just think, you know, what if maybe we've discovered this and put a name to it or called it whatever we're going to call it too soon. Maybe.
But scientists do have a couple of theories, one of which is that as resources in the desert become scarce, vegetation and wildlife will spread out to avoid being in competition. This thins out the smaller plants as they cannot get the water to survive and causes them to disappear at the edges of these patches of growth. Another theory is that termites that live beneath the earth in this place have areas between their colonies that separate them, creating no man's lands in the spaces in between. And most recently, there's become a new theory that seems to be the one that they're currently going with to explain these fairy circles. They believe that the plants that form the circles release a toxic sap into the soil, and that this is what causes the bare patches of land in between. Maybe they have finally figured out the puzzle. Number 11. Hesdalen Lights, Norway. Here we are with yet more erratic balls of light doing mysterious stuff that nobody can explain. Seems like an epidemic of glowing orbs to me. Someone should probably have that seen to, because it sounds uncomfortable. These particular balls of strangeness have been witnessed in a valley in Norway, and after 30 years of study, scientists have started to put together a theory. The orbs of light first began to appear regularly back in the 1980s. This, of course, drew UFO people from all over the world to the area, many of them believing that the valley was somehow a portal to another dimension, because naturally, you see a weird ball of glowing light and you think aliens. Therefore, an area that's full of balls must be a gateway to another world. There is no other possible explanation. The scientific ideas that have been put forward to explain the lights come down to the different sorts of metallic rocks in the area that, in combination with the sulfurous river, runs through the valley. It's created a kind of natural battery, the visual result of which are these lights, which are formed, and then bubbles of ionized gas are made from the fumes of sulfur, which then react with the humid air. There are, however, other schools of thought that posit the notion that these weird balls are made of plasma, or possibly even ball lightning. The jury, they're still out on that one, but I'm going with UFOs and portals, thank you very much. Number 10. The Shroud of Turin. Ancient religious relics have long pulled in the crowds and have formed a significant part of religious fervor, and in more recent times, the sorts of religion-based tourism that rakes in the cash. But then again, I'm just an old cynic, and all of these things seem like a lot of dusty old bones and bits of cloth and stuff. This particular old relic may be one of the most famous, and also one of the most phony, but nobody really knows for sure. The Shroud of Turin is allegedly an ancient linen cloth that was used to wrap the body of the then recently crucified Jesus Christ. The cloth itself shows what seems to be the impression of the features of the man, conveniently resembling all of those paintings and carvings of Christ that everyone has seen emblazoned across the churches of the world since medieval times. The Turin Shroud has been studied to the nth degree, and yet there is still no conclusive evidence of anything much at all. Since its first appearance in the 14th century in France, many people have believed that this is indeed the cloth that held the body of Jesus, but many still believe that it's an elaborate medieval hoax. Tell me, which side of the coin do you land on?
I don't know, because I want to see it. I don't know. Ever since I heard about that, that has intrigued me. I don't know why a cloth with blood on it that has the imprint or face of Jesus on it. I don't know why, but I feel like that's something I do want to go and see physically and see. I don't know if that's going to be able to tell me or not whether it's real or whether I walk away thinking something different. I don't know. I just want to see though.
Number 9. The Long U Caves. After a local pond would be drained in China, this network of ancient man-made underwater caves would be discovered. People had always believed the ponds of Longyu to be bottomless, but that idea simply inspired one local man to go and find out just how bottomless they really were. So this nosy guy convinced his neighbors to go in with him and buy a water pump to begin emptying out their local pond. It does sound a bit crazy, and if that happened in most places, there would likely be a severely disgruntled neighborhood watch group who was wrestling the guilty parties away from their water pump, and at worst, they would probably find themselves arrested. But there we are. Things must be a whole lot different in Longyu. So this guy completely drained one of the ponds, and that's when he discovered that, lo and behold, it wasn't bottomless at all. Shocker. It actually concealed the entrance to a super old man-made cave. This discovery was simply too tantalizing for other local people, and they all wanted to drain all of their ponds as well. There was a huge run on water pumps at the local hardware store, and everyone in Longyu wiped themselves up into a pond draining frenzy. Never mind the fish or the other wildlife that may live in there, or indeed the fact that these ponds were used for many things within the community. Nobody knew what it meant, but they all appeared to have these weird caves. The origins of these things are still unknown, but they're now open to tourists, naturally. Number 8. The Lost City of Atlantis. A place that has been imagined and reimagined 1,000 times, has inspired countless searches, endless romantic notions, and copious fictitious renderings. Atlantis is a myth above all the others. Atlantis was mentioned in Plato's works, in which he had written that it was an advanced and powerful island nation that sank into the ocean all the way back in 9600 BC.
And I'm surprised no one has tried to recreate that. An advanced, powerful nation. The energy surrounding that area, which I think is the Eye of the Sahara, the energy surrounding that area has to be great. So I'm surprised no one has tried to recreate that, though.
It's long been the subject of discussion. Even the ancient Greeks themselves were divided over whether the place was meant to be interpreted literally as an actual historical location or whether it was simply a metaphor. Metaphor or not, Atlantis has inspired many adventurers to seek its mysterious whereabouts, and the theories have abounded as to possible locations and reasons that it sank beneath the waves. Update: Atlantis is still missing. Police are seeking your help to catch who stole Atlantis. Only you can help solve the mystery. Number 7. The Voynich Manuscript. Back along in Italy during the Renaissance, there were all sorts of secret goings-on with mysterious manuscripts and various codes and languages that we do not necessarily use or even understand today. It was a time of great passion for learning and recording information, as well as an era in which the rich and powerful were at constant risk of political assassination. And so they were forever looking for ways to guard their wealth and secrets, and that meant that there are lots of interesting and unusual manuscripts kicking about that oftentimes confound the experts as much as they illuminate things. The Voynich manuscript is one such illustrated item. It is a handwritten codex in an unknown writing system, and this is the only place where this particular kind of code has been found. It's kinda weird. Written on vellum, which has been carbon dated to the early 15th century, and the general style of it has been attributed to Italy during that era. But other than those facts, the remaining issues are much debated amongst scholars. The author and purpose of the manuscript are unknown, and although there are plenty of people with lots of ideas about these things, of course, there is the contents itself, a code which nobody really understands. The suggestions for this include that it's a language that we have no other written examples of, or that it's a code or indeed a cipher, both useless without the other. Or it could always just be a hoax. The current 240-page document has also, rather tantalizingly, been discovered to be missing pages. There's a movie starring Tom Hanks right there, I think. The mysterious manuscript sits in Yale University's Rare Book and Manuscript Library, yet to reveal its secrets. How very intriguing. Number 6. Plain of Jars, Laos. This strange landscape is dotted with thousands of jars made of stone, and nobody really knows why. Located in Laos, the Plain of Jars is a grassland in the highlands. All across this space, there are masses of large stone jars, which are all between about 3 and 10 feet tall. They're made out of sedimentary rock, which has the central core hollowed out, and there are a few theories as to what these might have been used for. Some experts say that they may have served as funeral urns and could have held human remains. But then there are other people who think that they were just as likely used for food storage or in order to brew a massive amount of rice wine. So, dead people or booze? Probably both. But still, nobody actually knows. It does make a strange sight, and it can be considered even stranger when you realize that, although this is the largest area like this, there are similar clusters of jars across the landscape which can be connected in a kind of linear formation all the way to the north of India. The plot does thicken. The trouble is, though, that even though plenty of people would like to know more about the place, it's one of the most dangerous of all the world's archaeological sites. There are thousands of unexploded bombs there, left over from the secret war of the 1960s, so who really knows when anyone will be able to poke about any further. Number 5. Dinosaur footprints. In what appears to be a creationist's wet dream, an alleged discovery was made all the way back in 1908 in the Paluxy River in Texas. Apparently, after a flood dislodged some large pieces of rock, a bunch of dinosaur tracks would be revealed in the river. These were mainly large footprints that had clearly belonged to very big creatures, but there was also a couple of smaller tracks in the ground. Some people vaguely pondered that they were a bit like human prints, but not that much apparently, because nobody paid them any attention at all until the place became a tourist attraction in the 1930s. Weird. You would have thought.
Yeah, at that point, the only reason they paying attention now is because they feel they can make money off of it. They didn't care. They didn't care, you know that.
Thought that a monumental discovery like that would have at least demanded a bit of discussion, but no, it actually didn't, because it was nonsense. In fact, although the place was a popular destination for tourists in the 30s, they were all rather too keen to take home souvenirs, and the so-called human tracks have rather inconveniently, or perhaps conveniently for some, disappeared, having been chiseled out and half-inched. So we may never know if there was evidence that people lived alongside dinosaurs a mere few thousand years ago, but here's a clue: they didn't. And since then, some other especially helpful people have carved footprints into the rock, all in the name of truth, of course. This so-called discovery has naturally featured heavily in creationist literature ever since it was first concocted, and since it's impossible to actually look at the original tracks, nobody can disprove it either. Still though, it's not quite the science-loving truth-seeking that we've come to expect from all the creation advocates out there now, is it? Number 4. The Hobbits of Flores. In a cave in Indonesia, a discovery has been made that proves that Tolkien's Middle-earth was not a fictional setting after all. Well, actually, that's a massive lie. They found a type of early human which is actually called Homo floresiensis, and they decided that it looked a bit like hobbits because they were small. Now, this is some deep and meaningful stuff here today. These old-timey human sorts were around until about 50,000 years ago. The bones that were found in the cave range from approximately 100,000 to 60,000 years old, and the tools that were found in the cave along with these bones are between 190,000 to 50,000 years old. You know, a really short span. These were the last other kinds of humans to die out before Homo sapiens, and that's the sort like us, who took over as the only humans on the block. Number 3. Three Whale Rock. Thailand has long been a popular destination for hedonists and those seeking, well, alternative sorts of vacations, but this country has more to offer than the stuff for which it's famous or infamous. Thailand is getting involved with some of that sweet ecotourism that's getting everyone so excited these days. This new trendy, responsible tourism is an opportunity for Thailand to show that there's so much more to the country than topless bars and suspect substances, and it's now all the rage to go hiking or biking into Thailand's epic countryside. And when you're there, you can find such extraordinary wonders as this massive rock formation, which is known as Three Whale Rock. When it's viewed from above...
Yeah, as long as you ain't afraid of heights, though. You know what I mean? Not trying to laugh at anybody afraid of heights, though. I've had my moments. But yeah, as long as you're not afraid of heights, because look at that. It's definitely a dope view though.
With some of that lovely drone footage of what we're so fond of, then it's clear to see how this place got its name. Yes, it looks like 3 whales swimming through the lush greenery of the Thai forest. And is that in any way scary to you? Well, perhaps it could be if you'd been up to no good in the capital immediately prior to visiting 3 Whale Rock, but this site is probably not one that would have you deciding that the Earth is way scarier than you think, not unless you are especially high-strung, of course. Anyways, the rock is located in the province of Gyeonggan in the northeast of the country, a whole 466 miles away from Bangkok, and it's a place of quite staggering natural beauty, just perfect for a few more drone pictures, don't you think? Number 2. The Ubaid Lizard Men. When excavating an ancient site in Iraq, archaeologists uncovered these extremely old, believed to be around 7,000 years, artifacts. So far, so regular. However, people seem to be attributing all kinds of extra whiz to some of the things that they found there. These are a few of the carvings that seem to represent humanoid figures with reptilian feature. Is this proof of lizard people? Or could it perhaps just be art? It is such a conundrum. These statues are from the prehistoric culture known as the Ubaid period, which occurred in Mesopotamia between 5500 and 4000 BC. The culture is known to have developed certain architectural styles and to have used farming methods. There's been much speculation about what the discovery of figures with such features may mean, but there's no way to know for sure. What do you think? Were the Ubaidans actually lizard people? Do the lizard people actually walk among us? And if so, what do they want? Number 1. The Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone. Discovered in 1872 in Meredith, New Hampshire.
We was just talking about this, bro. I have no clue. They have no clue, but it just looks weird. But I don't know. This thing here, man, I can't wait till we figure out what it is.
A bunch of construction workers uncovered a super strange, mysterious rock that was shaped like an egg. And apparently, everyone was so completely baffled by it that they began to imagine that it was all kinds of weird and wonderful things. There are a lot of theories about its origin and purpose, but the one that holds the most people's interest is that the mystery stone is actually what is known as a thunderstone. These have existed in folklore and mythology for hundreds of years, and the stories go that in days gone by, farmers and other people in the countryside believed that thunderbolts had fallen from the sky and became buried in the ground.
Or it could be used to ward off bad spirits, who knows?
They look like this. That would be cool, but also pretty weird, and there would be millions of these things turning up all over the place, wouldn't there? Anyways, others have theorized that these could have been used as tools by early peoples, or, of course, that they could have been art. People have made art since prehistoric times, you know, so why not?